Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse focused on hospice and palliative care, as well as being a certified end-of-life doula through the International Doula Life Movement. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about issues related to death and dying. After all, we are all going to die. Shouldn't we be prepared for what is facing us? I'll have video discussions for my fellow hospice and palliative care nurses, discussions for holistic nurses, and discussions for end-of-life doulas, as well as individuals who are not in the medical field at all. And in fact, from a perspective, an end-of-life doula is a non-medical support person. If these are topics of interest, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification so they get notified on video updates, and like the video. It helps this channel and channels like mine that are rather small. So the topic for today's video is going to be on advanced directives, aka specifically living wills. Before I go on to today's topic, I want to take a moment to talk about building resilience, because we cannot plan when a storm is going to happen in our life. Whether it's somebody saying something hurtful, maybe it's a death, maybe it's a loss. There's such a thing as an ambiguous loss where there can be no closure. Very hard things. And how do we face those very challenging, difficult things that just come out of nowhere? From my perspective, it's through building resilience. There's three pillars. I focus on the third on this channel. For those wondering, pillar one is my faith in Christ Jesus, or yours, in who to me I would hope it would be Jesus. Pillar number two is forgiveness, and pillar number three is gratitude, that I believe everyone should be able to do. Not everyone will accept where I'm at for pillar one or want to join me there, so to speak. I know forgiveness can be very challenging. It's been a challenging year for me in 2025 to walk and practice forgiveness. But gratitude, I have a feeling that while we may not be able to have gratitude if we're being beaten down in the moment, if we get a breath and we can take a moment, we can say, what are we grateful for? So I'm grateful that we had one of our friends that most of you have been following this channel know that we're new to Kentucky, Madison County in particular, and we've been developing a small group of friends, and we had one of the families over, husband and wife and their adult son, and it was such a joyous occasion. So I'm grateful for the friendship from the Hopkins family. One of these days, I don't know if it'll be us over there, or they're over here, the Lee family as well, we're grateful for. And there are others, but I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you who are coming here and watching these videos, individuals like Robert, who will chime in from time to time. He has a being active in retirement channel. He's 77 and sharing his journey through retirement and what that picture looks like and how to stay well in that. So I appreciate you, Robert. And there's my fellow cohort, my classmates from the International Life Movement, cohort number 26. We graduated mid-July, who will chime in from time to time. And those who are buying my books, I had a couple, oh, and I just realized I put the book back in the bookshelf, but my end-of-life care planning book, the thick 563 page, 21 chapter, 7 appendices book that people are starting to say this is of value, and I'm grateful for that. So getting into today's topic about advanced care planning, while that can encompass several elements, the living will is key. Other elements, for some states, it's the POLST, Physician's Order for Life-Sustaining Treatment. Kentucky, we have the MOST, medical orders for sustaining treatment. But those are on the fringe. They matter, but your living will and your powers of attorney, your doable power of attorney, matters the most. So I have two articles I'm going to be referring in the link below. Publishing on September 1st of 2025 is a article titled "The Adult Priority You Cannot Afford to Skip: Your Complete Advance Directive," dealing with the fact that medical emergencies don't discriminate by age or your health status. And then publishing on September 3rd, 2025. And by the time you see this video, these articles will be out there. I am filming in advance of these articles being published, not by much. But the September 3rd is "When Death Comes Unexpectedly, Why Being Prepared Matters More Than Ever," that talks about death from in the emergency room. So in terms of the September 1st article, I'm just sharing with you some of my research findings that were surprising to me. They're sad, but surprising. So let me just, here it is. Fewer than 40%, fewer than 40% of American adults have an advance directives. That means 60% or more don't. More than 60% don't have a living will. A lot of people think, oh, I have time. And in the article on the first goes over some cases. There's a story of Jessica, a 23-year-old marathon runner. Didn't know she had a heart condition. Mark, 34-year-old software engineer, father of two, had an allergic reaction, left him unconscious for weeks, couldn't speak to advocate for himself. Linda, 58-year-old yoga instructor, excellent health, massive stroke. David, 72-year-old retiree, multi-car accidents. We don't know when tragedy is going to strike. If I don't know how to word things. Sometimes I'm better with written. And yes, I'm using grammar checker, and sometimes is there a better way to say this, and so on and so forth. But we don't know when a crisis is going to happen to us. That's why it's so important to have a thorough living will. And a lot of people that go down this journey, I talked to a number when I did the free will clinic that was in, I'd have to look on the calendar. I think, okay, it was August 18th. 33 people got their last will and testament done. Now that's different. But I actually went up to a couple people that they didn't come to me. I went up to them, and they had either this or the one attorney general, their form with them. Sorry, give me one moment. These are unscripted. So they had one of these, and they had them partially filled out. And the trouble with just doing these yourselves, and you don't need a lawyer, the majority of the time, with the understanding the fine print is I'm not giving legal, medical, financial advice. This is for educational purposes only. But most of the lawyers out there, they're going to hand you these forms as is, and they'll just say fill it out, but they'll not walk you through. Most of the lawyers out there do not know that there's actually directives for mental illness, directives for dementia, directives for voluntarily stopping eating and drinking that has liability disclaimers for the caregivers. Most of them don't know that. Most of them will go the entire legal route, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you get to the Kentucky form, I do have this one crossed out, they'll have either witness or notarized. But If you have both, you have a stronger legal document than if you had one or the other. So if you have somebody that's fully trained in doing advanced directives, and that is typically not the attorney, no offense, they can walk you through. And that's stuff I do, and that's stuff that other people who have similar training to me can do as well. But you don't know when these events are going to happen, where you're going to be in a situation where what can we do? My wife and I faced this with with her dad, dying in the emergency room. We we felt he wanted to be at home, but like we weren't sure of all the mechanics to walk through. We Even with my background as a hospice and palliative care nurse, when that happened, we all felt unprepared. We didn't have the paperwork. We knew the DNR, but we didn't have the paperwork. And so then getting to, in terms of these two articles coming out here, and I'm again putting in some links in the description below. This caught me off guard. Emergency department deaths happen about 11.3% of all deaths in the United States. 11.3% are in the emergency room. That's a wow. I know my father-in-law was one. That was a wow. And when I was talking to a family a short while back, and we were talking about what is a good death and what does a good death look like to you. And with this, I need to give the overall non-judgmental channel, and in real life, non-judgmental space. And that sometimes gets very challenging, because I was having a discussion where one of the family members was sharing, I don't want to die at home. I'm going to go to the hospital, because they felt they'd be a burden to their family. And as a side note, part of our discussion, and I've had this where I still remember with when I worked at Grain Hospice up in York, PA, we had a family member who the father-in-law wanted desperately to die in a home setting, but the daughter-in-law felt that if a person died in the house would be haunted. And that was what she felt like. And so we had to, at the end of the day, when it got to the point when the father-in-law could not make his voice heard, because there was no living will done, there was no documentation of his wishes, even though he vocalized it, we had nothing in writing, we had no legal document that had to be honored. One thing to please understand: if you have the proper documentation and it is properly done, not DIY, properly done, it is a legal document that will hold up in court. And those who will do the right thing, the hospice, we at Wood Grain, they didn't have the legal document, we didn't have that. So all we had then is we knew what the patient wanted, but we didn't have it in a legal document. So the daughter-in-law got her way, and I was the hospice nurse. That's hard. So I had the opportunity to share when we had this discussion. And at the end of the day, it's up to the person. I want to share that we had a very good discussion on Thursday of the other week. I'm taking Pam Carter. She is excellent at teaching advanced care planning through the International Life Movement. And we had an excellent discussion. There are several people there that work in healthcare. We have a physician's assistant, now retired. We have myself and a couple other nurses active, and we have some that are lead in assisted and skilled nursing care. And wow, what meaningful live discussion. This is one of the reasons I love the International Life Movement. These are not pre-recorded dry videos. It's live, it's interactive. We ask questions. There are times where we're crying, literal, like tears crying, not crying, venting. We're sobbing because of what we're either seeing or working, or we're holding space for one another. And so somebody was sharing, like, how do you all of you that work in healthcare deal with the families that are educated through the roof and still want to do things that'll cause suffering? Well, you build resilience, number one, but at the end of the day, they're adults, they're allowed to make their choices. And it's our job to help advocate and support for their choices. And sometimes that's beyond internally frustrating and difficult, but part of our duty, to the degree that's ethical, legal, and moral, is to support our fellow human being. That's our job. That's our calling. So getting back here, when we were talking, this person was sharing, I don't want to die at home. I don't want to be a burden to my family. I want to die in the hospital. Well, on the article coming out to September 3rd, part of what I bring out to light, and there are evidence-based, they're scientific articles, for lack of a better words. I don't know if scientific is the right word, because there's certain things you can't do cause and effect. So it is correlation. It is correlation. But here, I know this, and I'm so glad that I have articles that are peer-reviewed backing this up, that hospital staff, the doctors and the nurses, are not trained on comfort care. They are not trained on comfort care. They know how to rescue somebody that they can rescue. They know how to do maintenance on somebody that can be maintained at a certain level, but they are not trained on how to keep the dying comfortable. And in fact, on top of that, and I've worked alongside, they're great nurses. I'm not trying to dismiss anybody, but I've had nurses that are so jaded that when the call bell rings, oh, that's Princess this or that, bad mouthing, they want their pain medication. They're just drug seeking. And they reluctantly give the pain medication. And on top of that, they do not, I repeat, they don't advocate for better pain management, because they get jaded by the people coming in. And it's its own story. I don't want to go down that rabbit trail too far. But in the case, and I do give other, I don't dwell in this article coming out on the 3rd, so that you're aware, I don't write about my father-in-law. I try to honor my wife's wishes in that regard, but I am sharing with you. They had him up on, I think there was at least 6 monitors going. All the alarms were turned off. The alarms were turned off. So I could see his oxygenation, his SpO2. I could see his heart rate. He had 5 or 6 runs of ventricular tachycardia, VTach. They had his blood pressure. Both numbers were above 200. All these different numbers on the screen. Not a single comfort medication ordered. Not one. Not one. I had to go and advocate. And I was able to advocate because I'm a hospice nurse. I wasn't his hospice nurse. But imagine a family member in that picture if you didn't have anyone else saying, he's uncomfortable. What can you give him? I had a palliative care doctor come in and thank me for the recommendations I gave, and said he wrote the orders. But I found out after the fact, he only wrote the orders to give the medications one time while we were there. I talked to the nurse. I said, that's wrong, don't you? Yes, work on changes. Oh, by the way, there's a defibrillator an ICD, implantable defibrillator. That's going to be turned off, isn't it? Because a person could be shocked during the dying process, and that's very uncomfortable for them and very traumatic for anybody witnessing it. Oh, we don't have orders for that. The palliative care doctor didn't provide the orders. Can we get orders for that? I'm sharing that with you because unless you have somebody that knows these things, who's going to ask these questions? It is beyond important to have a living will done. It is beyond important to start making connections with end-of-life doulas, life transition coaches like myself. I operate out of Madison County, Kentucky, but I can help you remotely on the appropriate paperwork. And you don't have to use me. I'm going to put in an area on compassioncrossing.info. Right now, there's not a centralized directory for end-of-life doulas. There's multiple directories. And on top of that, people could be listed in a directory, stop practicing, forget what directories they signed up for, or otherwise got automatically included in because of scraping. Where they go through the web, oh, this person's a doula, let me add them in. And not everyone who is a doula, a certified end-of-life doula, or not certified, not everyone is trained on how to do thorough, very complete living wills. So we're coming to the landing zone. I'm going to give some links in the description below, both the articles that I'm writing along with their references. But I cannot strongly encourage you, regardless of, if you're 18 and older, you need a living will. And if you had some, for example, I've had families tell me, oh, we have one. Well, where is it? Well, oh, or they had one and it was updated several years ago and they're having life changes, marriage, divorce, separation, deaths in the family, new children, so on and so forth. Who's going to be your spokesperson? Needs to be current, needs to be kept up to date. If you have any questions, this is a non-judgmental channel. My goal is to support, to guide, to encourage. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and bye.